So, hi everyone and welcome to the podcast. Once again, we are at the Art of Hip Hop in Wynwood, right next to the Museum of Graffiti, and my guest today is Mr. June. David, how are you today?
I'm good.
Yeah, well, everybody knows you by Mr. June, David. So, well, welcome back in town. You spent quite a lot of time here in Wynwood. You are originally from the Netherlands?
Yep.
Yes, so how's the art scene over there?
The art scene is big, and even the graffiti scene in Holland is nowadays really big.
Yes.
Like, it came back, I think, the last 10 years. It's kind of a revival. The same as I started like almost 15 years ago back at the streets, back at graffiti.
Back in the graffiti.
And you see a lot of also the old school writers are back at it and pretty hardcore. So
back at it, yes, that's a good thing. I was very lucky last year to meet Mikla Rock, who came here. She had an amazing solo show at the Museum of Graffiti. I mean, she is also a legend in your country.
Yeah, she's the first female old school graffiti writer.
Yeah, so that's. I'm sure you guys worked together at some point. Have you ever actually? No, maybe not.
No,
you know her, yes.
And once in a while we cross our paths.
We cross paths.
But she's really connected also.
She's really connected. Yes, she really gave me an amazing interview. Really something.
Yeah, she
pretty sweet.
Yeah, and she's still like old school.
She's very old school, very old school.
Writer.
Although she has that. Somehow like you move into some more abstract work, which could be somehow similar.
Yeah, it's got
something. But anyway, you both are different artists.
Yeah.
So how long you been coming to Wynwood and painting in Wynwood? You seem to be a regular fixture here. There's plenty of buildings with your art on it.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Because the last 10 years, I did a lot of commercial jobs also here in Wynwood, and also in North and in
yes, in Fort Lauderdale and Hollywood,
and different areas. But the first year I came was I think 2013.
All right,
and. That was out of nothing. I just came, I paid my own ticket, I paid everything myself, and it was through a good friend of mine from New York, Joe, for the Bushwick Collective.
Okay, for Bushwick,
He said, listen, I've got an event here on the RC Cola.
Correct.
And I have a wall for you. Just come to Miami and we'll figure it out. So I just came. And the first day I came here, I met some guys. I think it was a few of the MSG local graffiti guys.
Yes.
They were painting here at the outside of the RC Cola. And we had a little chat and I showed him my work. And 20 minutes later, I was standing next to them painting my first piece, like the first day.
First day?
And that year, I did a lot of pieces, but all graffiti.
They were just graffiti at the time?
Yeah.
So this is really your background, graffiti background.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you were also at the time, back in 1985, breakdancer, a b-boy.
Yeah.
You were also part of that scene.
Yeah, I started graffiti because a few friends of mine and me, we were like totally into the hip hop, and the first hip hop was for us the love of b-boying, breakdancing.
A lot of people a lot of artists also have that connection, and we are once again at the right place today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that history I think the old school graffiti art.
Yes,
we have sort of the same
connection,
nostalgic connection with each other, and because we all went there, we did it, we explored it there, because there was no internet,
No, there was no such a thing at the time.
So we have to explore everything ourselves. And everyone had their own tricks, and we had like a famous, for example, a fat cap that was like a deodorant spray.
Yes.
That little cap. That
Yes.
was our little secret, because that was a fat cap.
So you were taking the caps from different,
we
different spray can, different, yes.
Yeah, but there was only one brand of.
There was only one brand.
No, but those little things, all the stories that you hear them all over the world. They're all
Correct.
sort of the same, and that makes quite a strong connection. And I think from in the graffiti is that old school vibe is all about the respect for each other,
time.
respect for each other's work.
Absolutely.
Because it's an ego thing, graffiti.
There is.
It's kind of a look what I did, of look what I can.
Yes.
And kind of.
And even more so now with the social media, everybody is kind of like showing their stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's how the whole stories kind of started, with those tags up in New York, in Philadelphia, all over the country, with just one marker at a time.
Yeah.
But this was just the tagging and doing it more and more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
And eventually got into Europe. I'm like the listeners know, I'm originally from France, so same thing. We had that kind of connection. To me at the time, I was not involved at all with the graffiti scene. I had no idea. My father did take me to see some murals, which was something big at the time. Even in the late early 70s, we had some what we call the trompe-l'œil, those big murals. They were absolutely incredible, but they were murals. They were not graffiti at the time, although you could see some tag. I don't quite remember, but I'm sure they were everywhere. The minute the teenagers had a pen, a marker in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in Europe, all the graffiti scene came a bit later than America, and especially New York. But the early days was you could see every city you came by train. Every city had their own style. You could see the styles and the tags. You could see, but we are almost close to Bordeaux, Paris, because all the cities in Europe, they had their own styles. And now I think through the new media, it's all blended together.
It's all blended.
You can almost not say anymore but that's a typical Parisian style, or that's a typical Munich style, or it's not.
They do have here in Miami, they use their very bright colors. I mean, the pink is always here in Miami. You have the turquoise, all these very
true.
South Florida colors. They do have a palette here in Miami that they use. And I'm sure we talk with some artists, sometimes they actually, when they go painting in different part of the country, here in the US, they tend to bring those colors that are fun, alive, versus maybe some more subdued colors or darker color shade palette.
Yeah, that's true.
So your art, you say that you really started with the graffiti scene, but eventually you had some kind of a transition into some more abstract work. And there's something to me coming from Europe that is very striking into your work. If I mention Vasarely, does it strike a chord to you?
Yeah, of course.
Of course, because I mean, he was the grandfather and the leader of the up art movement, which is the optical movement back in the late 40s, actually. The movement became very, very popular in the mid 60s. But all these really optical illusion are very, very present in your work. I mean, this is a take on, we are in the 2000s, 2025. So this is something fresh that you bring again.
Yeah, the funny thing is when I really realized that I had a style, or I had like a thing where I can grow on, I'd never heard about those names. I never saw that before, because in art everything is done already. Even if you think you have your golden egg, it's done.
That is true.
If you really go deep in the books, you see like a book cover from an artist in the 1920s, and it's exactly that. So all the artists think they have their own little found their own golden egg or whatever. No, it is
yes
already. So it is only about how do you do it, how do you use it. But I came up with my style and my things at the moment I decided to stop my company. I had a graphic design company.
Okay.
With a friend of mine in Amsterdam. And after the crisis in Europe, like 2008, 2000,
Okay.
a lot of change. So I decided to stop the whole business, and I went quite naive just for the art. I thought, I'm going to make art, I'm going to paint paintings, and people can buy it if they like it, and if not, all good, like
All good, yes.
quite naive. So no money, no insurance of getting any money. I just wanted to follow my passion and paint. And then I decided, because I wanted to focus just on one thing, because as a graphic designer, I did also a lot of video things. I was also a DJ for years, and I did.
Oh, of course, they're getting into the
painted.
breakdance and everything.
Yeah, so
yes.
there was all kind of a wide angle of all different things, and I always call them different islands, and I was
Okay.
good in all the islands. And I was making books, but also making video clips, and I was doing whatever. So I decided to just focus on one thing, because I wanted to, how do you say, extend.
To extend or to, just to...
I was really aware of the fact that I have to lose all the other things and focus on one thing.
Okay.
And then I decided to be honest, almost as a second person, I was watching my work, my graphic design work, for the last 15 years. And then I realized, I have already a style. There is a handwriting, because if you work a lot and you're doing what you do, you're never aware of the fact that you have a style. Or
I can see that, yes.
Other people can see that, but I never saw that.
You never saw that?
No.
That's strange. Yeah.
But then I started to literally study my own work, and then I came across I have already a hand style, I have already a style, so that I used to start it, to paint canvases.
But at the time you were just doing canvases work, so I guess you were using brushes and paint versus spray paint.
And to be honest, my canvases are mostly are just acrylics and
Acrylics.
And what is it?
Brushes.
Brushes, yeah.
Brushes and acrylic.
Yeah. Once in a while, if I do a really big canvas, I'm gonna reach to a spray can. But normally I don't.
You don't, yes.
Yeah.
So from Winwood, I mean, with all this work that you became a real fixture here. Everybody knows Mr. June. So how did you get to this name, Mr. June? Is that a fun story to tell?
It is funny in the sense of that my first graffiti name, like in 84, 85, was June.
Oh, you picked June at the time.
That was always my name.
So you were also known as June as a graffiti writer.
Yeah. And it was not about the month June, because at that time I was
yes,
14 years old, and I probably was not that good in English. I didn't know for real that was the word of the month.
Okay, all right.
In English.
So does it have a different meaning in Dutch?
No, it's not.
No, it does not.
No meaning. But for me, it sounded cool.
It sounded cool. Okay.
And I think the primer thing was that you can write it really quickly in one piece.
Oh, that's what it is. Yes.
Speech, like
4 letters. Yes.
You can tag it really quickly and walk further. So I think, and it sounded cool, and I never changed it.
Yes.
And
well, for all of us growing up in Europe, any American name, anything coming from Europe, I mean, as a kid, as a teenager, I was very, very attracted to the US. Mm-hmm. That's why I moved into this country 30 years ago. It's
where
like... Originally, I'm from France, from the south of France, from Cannes. So yes, I got married over there. My first son was born over there, and then we moved almost 32 years ago here in Broward County, north of Miami, Winwood. So then 12 years ago, a little more than 12 years ago, I came to Winwood for the first time, doing a photo shoot at the time with the band.
I remember you for the first time.
And then, yes, I absolutely fell in love with this community here, and fell in love with the art, and I really wanted to know the people and to know the story, and then whoever wanted to share a little bit of the story is like, okay, let's put this into a magazine. So for 2 years I published a magazine covering the art scene here in Winwood, and this was such a fun project. So the idea of the podcast started 2 years ago when I wanted to go back into the magazine and doing like a Where Are They Now with all these people that I had in the magazine 12 years before. Some at the time had a regular job, are teachers. A lot of them were into the design also industry. I guess that's why your work right now, it's so tight, so crisp, so
quite graphic.
Really, the graphic designer, it's very, very clean.
Yeah, for me, it was a natural step to go from graffiti to what I'm doing now. Because even back in the days, I was, I think, one of the first in Holland who stopped using outlines in graffiti in letter.
Okay.
And that was kind of weird at that time. People would say, well, there is no graffiti anymore.
Okay.
Friends of mine, they would say, oh, that's cool, but what does it say? That's like...
Yes, correct.
It's not graffiti because like proper, the old school graffiti has rules, you have to be...
It does, yes.
Has a fill-in and an outline and maybe a highlight or a second outline or whatever. And I started to play with colors, looking for contrast and dark and light. I was at the point from, if I have like a dark purple and a yellow next to each other, you don't need a black outline to focus on the shape or on the line. So I dropped that quite early already. And from there it went on and on. So I went more abstract and abstract and abstract to the point now, like, I never want to explain my work.
No.
That's what I think the love of my work is. Because it's abstract, I want to keep it at you guys, at the viewer.
Yeah, the viewer,
what
you enjoy it to see, yes.
That's what I really get my biggest positive emotions from people who come up to me and they're telling a story what they see, what I just painted. That's, I think, my best compliment.
That's one thing we mention quite often. We want the art to provoke some emotion.
Exactly.
Something like, okay, it makes you turn your head. You have time to stop or you appreciate it. It's just maybe because there's one stroke of green, of yellow and black and just like, okay, it just calls you. It calls you.
It doesn't have to be beautiful. It has to move you.
It has to move you. There's some love into it. You have to appreciate it at least. And then you may find something else. And then you can get lost in your pieces. I mean, you can look at your piece because, I mean, now the walls that you're painting, especially down here in Miami, in Wynwood, the pieces are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's just like, okay, there's so much to look into it.
Yeah, and the funny thing is because I don't paint things with eyes or, things that people can recognize. But I still always think and say that what I paint, even with big murals, I always try to tell a story. But it's more a story of the same as a piece of music. I see my work also as a composition.
I can see that. I can totally see that.
Yes. The big movements are probably the bass, the heavy ones. And
the rhythm.
And you have the small ones, are the in-betweens.
Okay.
You have like a weird. So I see what I do like, and it all has to be with the Fibonacci series. It all has to be, all is in relationship with the golden ratio. The
golden ratio, okay.
The series of numbers.
Okay.
And that's the 1, 3, 5, etc., etc. But that's about the big one, the 1, the 3, and the 5. It's all about the relationship between this shape and that shape.
Oh, okay.
That is what I'm...
So you do put some of this into your work. That's funny because
always.
Not always?
Always.
Always.
And even if it is unconscious, it still is that. The same as if you make a picture and you want to say, make it, the composition is like interesting. If you put like a line in the middle of the paper, it's not interesting at all.
It's not interesting yet.
Just out of the middle.
Slightly off, yes.
Way more interesting. And why is that? That's because of the study of the nature and the Fibonacci. And it comes from how the plants work, so how it grows and all that. And that's my passion that started with, and I came up with the shape, the hexagon.
The hexagon, yes.
So all my murals I made here, all my big works are all little... pieces or snaplets.
Yes.
my study of the hexagon.
Of the hexagon.
My study is my canvases. All my canvases is one hexagon, one chapter of my study, and next one, and next one, and next one. So all my big walls, I see them as my playground, and play and cut and paste with all the different things I came up with, what I can do with a hexagon, and I put them in one piece on a wall.
And then you play with the colors too.
Yeah, I play with the colors.
The colors also like kind of the rhythm of the music of your art.
Yeah, but to be honest, I don't look at the colors that much.
Oh, okay.
I don't. It's more like unconscious.
Okay.
Playful.
It goes with your mood when you start into the wall.
It's more the most important thing is, of course, the environment of the wall.
The environment.
Or the elements of the wall, of the things around it. And then
it has to be pleasing to the eye. It has to be eye-catching.
I want to react on the environment. I kind of think it's quite boring that you see a lot of murals. It's just a nice picture and it's just put on the wall, like one-on-one at the sketch.
Okay.
And I don't... A lot of examples are that they didn't look at the environment, they didn't look at the shapes, they have no interaction with the shape of the canvas,
of the canvas of the building. Yes,
and I think that for me that's the.
It's more key elements.
Yeah, yes. And I don't make street art. I don't like that word. I always say I make public art. I think that my best pieces are pieces who are. On a wall, and you could see as if it was there already.
It belongs. It belongs to the street. It belongs.
Exactly.
It does not contrast or clash with the elements, with the wall, with the city, with wherever you are. So this is how you approach your art.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
and I'm also really aware of how a human brain works. You know, I'm playing with dark and lights and shadows and playing with illusions of depth. And most of the time, if you see my work and it's really integrated or like complicated, your brain will tell that it is what it is because it has to be like that. The unconsciousness, if something is dark, it's way further than...
Correct, yes.
Than bright.
Yeah, you play with the dimensions.
Yeah. And in combination with the brain of your human body, because if for me my work, you said it looks so tight and all like
it is extremely precise, very tight, very clean.
Yeah, but it's not.
It's not.
And that's the funny part. Yeah, but your brain will say if you make a straight line, your brain will make it a straight line. It is a straight line.
I can see that.
If you can measure it and really, it's not. But I know your brain will correct it and make it a straight line.
That is true. Your brain and your eyesight can be pretty tricky and then make you see something that is not in the picture or not in this.
So a brain will correct its unconsciousness because you want to see a straight line. And most of the time I'm not afraid to the mistakes I make.
To deviate maybe a little bit.
No,
or making some happy mistakes?
Happy mistake.
Yes, yeah, I heard you saying that in one interview.
Yes. I love that. But
yes,
most of the time I leave them also. Because that can be also a little mind fuck.
Yeah.
Because I know
how
it works. And if you see a thing is just off or just and then your mind goes, hey, what about that?
What about that little piece? Yes.
What happened there? And then I get, okay, that's for me my little fun...
It's just playing some little tricks on the human eyesight and just like, okay.
But when you say it looks so straight, of course it is. But I think a lot of artists, we are kind of, and I'm for sure kind of autistic in a way.
Okay.
It has to be. My only concern is all my work, my abstract work it has to be at the same angle. And the same, because a hexagon has only two angles, like
correct.
This one and this one, and that's it. And if one goes just a little bit off,
slightly off,
my brain will
tell you,
and the rest.
Wake up, June.
If the color doesn't match or whatever, I don't care. But the directions and the lines have to be on point.
It has to be here. It has to be on point.
Yeah, funny enough.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing. So you were about to leave Winwood for some other project. I guess you are going back home now. You're going back to the Netherlands, and you have some project this upcoming year.
I have a few little things,
A few other things, yes. You also travel the world. I mean, you really bring your art in different art festivals. Now Mr. June is known. Yeah. That's why I want to catch you before you leave town. I said, okay, I need to have you on the podcast. I need to hear those stories.
Yeah, that's sweet. But the funny thing is that I think more than 80% of my work is in the States, especially in New York, Miami, and Denver. That's it.
Miami, Denver.
I was in Sacramento. I was in Greensboro, but mostly New York and Miami. Yeah, I don't know why, but it's...
Well, it's just maybe because you bring something, just like us as a teenager looking at the US maybe sees something as, okay, you're an international artist, you come from Europe, you bring something new and fresh here. That's... the history of this country is not that old, and Vasarely, maybe some know this name. Most of the listeners may not know this name, because for us growing up in Europe, we know this name. I mean, it was a major artist. So maybe this is something new, fresh, and that's why people like it. It's.
I think with my work and with all abstract work is you love it or you hate it, and
well, we say very often that the grass is always greener on the other side.
Yeah. I always say I don't make things with eyes, so there's no recognition of what people and I know for a fact even here all the people here are making selfies. The murals with eyes and hands, like, oh my God, because it's recognizable.
It is very recognizable.
That's easy to please, I think. But that said, is that's what I like about. I always said that I'm not an illustrator.
Yes.
I just I'm keen because I paint for many years. I don't have to prove myself.
Oh no, you don't have to prove yourself.
So. For me, it's just to play with colors and to be aware of the fact that I'm still learning also.
You're still learning also?
Yeah, and that's, to be honest, I always said in interviews and always screamed, I never sketch, but of course I do sketch.
You do sketch, yes.
A big wall, I really prefer not to sketch.
Okay.
I just prefer to be on the spot and feel around the surrounding and start just on the left upper corner.
Okay.
With maybe a few diagonal lines, and then...
I guess you use some kind of rulers sometime in your art?
My only tool I have is like a big, like a stick.
Okay, a big stick, yeah.
Only to make sure I have the right angle. And that's I enjoy the most part of the process, and if I'm not sketching, that's my biggest happy place doing the process, because then I can react on what I did.
Okay.
Then I can or surprise myself or think about coming back, let's say the next day, and say, oh, let's do this, or let's go big, and then.
All right. So that's how you tackle a wall, a mural.
Yeah, that's my. I always.
That's how you approach the wall.
Yeah, and even with clients with commercial jobs, of course, a client want to see a sketch or
they do,
and I always will do that, and I always say, okay, this is a mock-up, but this is not what it's going to be.
100%, yes.
No, this is sort of an idea what you're gonna get, and we can discuss colors or whatever. I'm open for that.
Yeah,
but it has to be like the colors of.
It has to match the environment. It has to. You don't want your work to clash.
Yeah.
Because now, like you say, you have a name. So whenever you leave town, whenever you leave a project, you want the people to recognize your work, and they do. I mean, now, especially here in Miami.
Yeah.
From miles away, we see a building. We know this is Mr. June.
Yeah.
Mr. June was in town.
Yeah. Yeah, and the funny thing, when we talk about colors, I see colors, but I mostly look at the temperatures of the colors.
Oh, okay.
That's what I learned about like making my own colors when I paint my canvases. I all the colors I use on my canvases are all like handmade, mixed.
Oh, all right.
I never use like a proper from.
Okay.
They're all mixed, but I always look at the temperature. You have blues and you have blues.
Yes, correct.
And greens and greens, and it's kind of, it's hard to explain. It's hard. It's not about how many yellow and red is in it, but it's more the temperature of a color. You can have like screaming colors, like
you can
white, but you have also like
very subdued, soft,
and I call it more temperatures. Like if the temperatures are right, then I can even use greens and what's a weird combination, and purples or whatever.
Yeah.
Normally you would say, oh, that's a weird combination, but if the temperatures are right, then
it's in the same tone. It's in, yes.
Yeah. So I always use at least 5 tints of one color.
Okay. 5 different shades of color.
Yeah.
In one color use.
And then that way I can play with the light and and go back and forth.
Well, this is how you get the dimension, the 3D effect in your pieces.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to say
earlier,
a minute ago, because of the fact that I'm making abstract work. I started to do this already like more than 10 years ago. Out of nothing, I started once. I just did a little water drop, just for fun.
Oh, I saw that. Yes,
it's kind of a trick. It's like easy, dark and light. And the moment I do that, people will say, "Oh my God, look at that water drop!" All the murals I make
they have a water drop now.
But most of the times I remove them at the end, and sometimes I leave them.
Okay.
Because I know if I do that halfway, people will come and say, "Oh my God, look at that drop," because that's recognizable. Can you imagine? Even the last one here in Miami is like 7 floors high building, huge thing. And
yes.
Beneath is little water drop, and people will say, "Oh my God, that water drop." Hey, yeah, well, guys, that's a trick. And people get tricked so easy. But that's my little thing with the.
That's your kind of latest signature.
No, I do that for quite a long time.
You've been doing it for a while, yes.
But most of them, most of the times, I delete them at the end.
You erase them.
Sometimes I leave them.
All right.
Yeah.
So, David, this is the time we have for the podcast. This was an incredible conversation. Thank you so much. I mean, I am so grateful for all of you guys. And we talked about the respect for the art scene, the street art scene, the graffiti guys earlier. It is very, very important to me to document, to see and to share what's happening here in this neighborhood, in Wynwood, in Fort Lauderdale, in South Florida in general. I mean, the art scene, the street art scene, even if you don't call yourself a street artist, it goes just so quickly. Mm-hmm. One day it's up, the next day it might be gone, or within a week or within a few months. So thank you so much for these few minutes. This was a great conversations. Now you go on for the next
adventure.
So thank you again, David, for this few minutes of the podcast.
You're welcome.
I know we'll catch up with you in a few months. You'll be back in Wynwood. Wynwood is a home away from home for you.
Second home, yeah.
Second home, yes. Everybody knows when Mr. June is in town.
Is it? Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. The word is on the street. All right. Thank you so much again. And we'll see you very, very soon.
Ciao.
All right. Bye-bye now. Thank you.